Uh, Today we shall discuss market sharing cartels. Market sharing cartels is a part of collusive oligopoly. I hope you have been finding these videos useful and you're watching these videos till the end. Also request you to click the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, because every week I present a topic for you in the discipline of economics. Let's look at the agreement among competitors. The question that comes up is, why do firms, when they are few in number, they come to this kind of an agreement to carry on their business? Can't they just sell the produce that they have made into the market? So economists have gone on to explain this in different forms. We saw the non-collusive oligopoly category, and now we are in this collusive oligopoly category. So what firms do in the collusive market sharing model is firms divide the market or markets among themselves. So a few firms join together and form a cartel, and after forming the cartel, they come to an agreement to share, to divide the market among themselves. So why do they do this? They do not want to face competition which can become aggressive and which can create a lot of uncertainty for the firm. So to avoid uncertainty and reduce competition and also enjoy monopoly profits, firms come together and respond to this kind of market sharing behavior. Now the question is, how do they share their markets? There are essentially four things that we understand about market sharing. One is that there are certain products or services which are agreed upon will be provided by firm after the bargaining that they would enter into. So all firms will not produce all the goods in the same category. They decide who would produce what good so that their markets are demarcated. The second way to do that is by looking at the geographical area. So all firms decide not to sell their goods in all geographical areas. They decide the markets as for themselves. And the third is they also decide on customers, who would be the likely customers. And once they have decided upon the customers, be it a particular age group or a kind of residential location or the government employees or whatever, they have their allotted customers and then they cater only to that customers. The last one is by looking into an agreement where they decide not to expand into the competitors' market. So they would allot the market, and after allotting the market, they do not agree to go into each other's market. So this cartel, this kind of an agreement that they make, in many ways you can understand, they protect the interest of each other, and hopefully they stay by what they have agreed upon. Now, there are two important methods of market sharing, and in these two methods of market sharing, they do fix up price, and they can sell their products according to their taste in terms of selling activities. And this form of market is much more common and more popular as well. There are two methods of carrying out this kind of market sharing. One is called as the non-price competition, and the other one is called as determination of quotas. Now, in the case of non-price, we shall explain the two forms here. In the non-price competition agreement, what we see is firms form a sort of a loose cartel, and the member firms agree on a common price. So the members of the cartel agree to the common price, and they can sell any amount of goods that they want. And this common price and any quantity invariably makes the cartel unstable, because now the firm will have a chance to manipulate the output in this particular form. We can see that the price is set by bargaining. the members of this cartel would bargain and find the price. Then they fix up the with the low cost firms asking for a lower price at which they can sell the product, and of course the higher price firm asking for a higher price in which the goods could be sold. The lower firm has an incentive to bargain for a lower price because the cost of production is low and they can get more customers. So this is the bargain that will happen between the low cost firm and a high cost firm in this form of market sharing agreement. Then, however, at the end of the discussion, they would come to this agreement that no firm would sell at a price lower than the cartel price which has been agreed by the member firms. So all members must get profit, and therefore they decide to sell it at only at the cartel price and not anything lower than the cartel price. Firms are free to vary their products, carry out different kinds of selling activities so that they can gain market. So their interest is by advertising or branding or selling activities through which they attract new customers for their products. Now, if they have same cost, then it's not difficult because they could come to a monopoly price. They could agree to a monopoly price. But in reality, that may not be so easy that all firms operate at the same price. So when there are cost differences, what happens is the cartel inherently becomes unstable because now the individual firms have got motives which are different from the agreed upon what has been agreed upon in the cartel. So the low cost firms which was bargaining for lower prices now have an incentive to break away from that cartel and openly charge a lower price from its customers. That does harm to the cartel, and we have to see now how do the remaining members of the cartel treat this particular firm who is behaving against the interest of the cartel. Also, the firm may, if not selling it openly at a lower price, it could be by cheating. Now, cheating is a very common behavior in this cartel. Cheating and bluffing is a very common behavior among cartel members, and that is why these cartels do not have a long life. They do their activities for a while, they settle the market, but they don't last for a long time. They are inherently unstable. So what they can do is this particular firm with a low cost may want to cheat other members by a secret price or price concession that it may give to its customers. Now, cheating will be soon discovered by the other members of the cartel. The question is, when cheating is discovered by the other members, how would those members treat this particular cheating firm? So, possibly different outcomes are possible, and these are not really known. These we have to understand how the possible outcomes may be. One of the possible outcome may be that other firms may quit the cartel because the cartel is no longer serving their purpose, and they are under the influence of cartel, but they're not able to carry on their activities, so they might leave the cartel. Then the other possibility is that a price war may ensure, and once the price war is there, there will be instability that will develop among the firms, and only the lowest cost firm will survive. So the firm that split away may be the one firm that will survive, and that's also possible. The other thing is that the members of the cartel may decide to start a price war, and they would sell it at until the firm which split off has to be driven out of business. So they would like to even try that, how to drive that firm which cheated the cartel out of the business. That is another effort that they would do. Now, whether these efforts will be successful or not depends a great deal on the cost advantages that each of these firms have. So if the splinter member has got the strength to withstand this price war, then it will survive the market. It also depends upon the liquidity position of the other remaining firms in the cartel. And if these other remaining obedient members of the cartel are able to finance the losses during this ongoing price war, then that is also possible. So anything is possible once a single firm tries to behave differently than the agreed objectives of the cartel. So that is the reason that these cartels work for a while, but eventually they are unstable and they create trouble for the cartel, which results in the cartel itself getting disbanded away after some time. In this particular diagram, what we shall see is only to show that when two firms have got different cost conditions, what will happen to the low cost firm in terms of the price at which it will want to sell. It's only to indicate to that. All the other indicators are, you can see here. The earlier video, if you watched on how firms get into collusion, you can understand this diagrams better. So the first firm is the red firm, the blue firm, and the green one is the cartel. Cartel is the combination of the two firms in terms of its prices, cost, and output. So let us now look at the firm A. Firm A is the red firm is the price has been fixed at PM by the cartel, and so the same price at PM has to be accepted by blue firm, and it has to be accepted by the red firm. Now the blue firm and the red firm, if you observe, they have got different cost condition. Blue firm is a lower cost firm than the red firm, the A firm. So the blue firm can actually afford to sell it at a lower price of RB, whereas the other firm A can sell it only at price RA. This is because once we have introduced the average cost curve, we find that blue is able to sell it at a lower price than firm A. So at this condition, what happens is the bold blue line of B that firm B is going to sell, it is lower than the price at which firm A will sell at PM. So firm B is definitely a firm which has got a cost advantage, which can sell it at a lower price, and it can sell it at a lower price than even the cartel. So this firm becomes a splinter group of splinter firm out of the cartel, and eventually this firm will drive out the high competitor out of the business, or the other firms will try and remove this out of the business depending upon the financial position. But most likely what would happen is that in this particular diagram, that the firm B will be able to drive firm A out of business. Now let's look at the other form, the second form of market sharing, which is by agreements on quota. What the firms here do is the firms decide on the quantity of goods that will be sold by the members of the cartel. If you connect it to the non-collusive oligopoly, you can see that the Bertrand idea and Cournot idea, as much as the Edgeworth model idea, is being followed in these models. So here now we are seeing a Cournot activity happening where firms are going to decide on the total quantity at which will be allocated among the members. The earlier one that you just heard was where the Bertrand model of price was being used to decide the cartel's behavior. So in that sense, if you have understood the cartel, the non-collusive oligopoly model, all of those ideas are the ones that are being repeated in these diagrams, in these models, but in different ways. So it is important for a student of economics to have learned these models one after the other in a sequential manner so that all these models become easier to understand. If you skip one model, then that idea has already emerged somewhere. That idea is being continued now. So we need to link and learn economics. When you link and learn economic concepts, you don't really need to by heart any of these things because they just logically flow. Little away from that, but then that was necessary because I found that I'm getting into a Cournot idea again. So if firms have now here in this market sharing agreement, firms come to decide on the quota when they come to this agreed cartel. So if firms have got identical cost, then not much of a problem. They could decide on a monopoly solution of the output, and the market would be shared equally among the two members. This is nothing but the Kuno's idea of market sharing by the two duopolists. And if there are two firms with identical cost, then each firm will sell at the monopoly price one half of the total quantity. Now this diagram is a simple diagram. Now I'm very sure that by now students who are watching this video are very clear about cost, revenues, and output, and firms and their output determinations and profits. All of them are done in the earlier presentation, and you would have studied it on your own as well. So with those information and knowledge that you have, this diagram is just a continuation of that. What you can see is that we are using three panels of diagrams: the red firm, the blue firm, and the cartel. The cartel, the green, the last one is a cartel. In the cartel, what we decided is the demand. What is the demand? Demand is a summation of the demand of individual firm A and firm B. So red firm and blue firm together makes the green demand curve. D is equal to D1 plus D2. And similarly, when we introduce the marginal cost curve, we are using the marginal cost curve of firm A and firm B. So the green marginal cost curve is MC, and that MC is equal to the MC of firm 1 and the MC of firm 2. So now we have decided the output as OXM, where the marginal cost curve is intersecting the marginal revenue curve, and at point EM. So that EM is the output that will be decided at OXM. So OXM output you can see in the two diagrams now. The two firms are able to sell at OX1. One firm, red firm, will produce X1 quantity, and blue firm will produce OX2 quantity. So these two firms will divide the market OXM into XM and X1 2. So one is XM1, X1, and one is X2. But they sell it at the same price as PM. Now, how do they fix this quota? This quota will depend upon individual. This is a very simplified situation, but in real life, it must be much more complicated. And what the firms may do is the firms will consider the cost of production and the bargaining skills of the respective firms. So what these firms would do when they bargain is the two firms will use a statistical criteria to decide how much that each firm should get as a quota. So they would consider the past levels of sales and the productive capacity of the firm to decide how much should be the share of individual firms. Now, the third form of market sharing is through geographical arrangements. In this particular case, what the firms do is, in this cartel, they will agree to divide the market for the produce in terms of geographical location or regions. Now, the firm will decide to operate only in one area or in one region that has been agreed upon in the cartel without encroaching into the other competitors' territory. So the territories are fixed, and they would not venture into entering the territory of the other rival firm. So price as well as style of the product may differ in this particular case. They could share because the markets are secure for them in the sense that the other firm will not enter into the market and give a competition. Therefore, firms can even vary the price at which they are selling their produce, but the market is safe for them. Now, it helps the firm to match the product and services to suit different regions, different cities, and different customers where the customers live and their needs are different. That is why you will find that the products in some regions are different from the products available in other regions, the services are different. But that is because the markets have been shared and they are a sort of a monopoly in that particular market. Now, these kind of markets can have some of them even operate at the international level. For example, in the automobile industry, where they decide to sell a particular kind of automobile in a particular region and not in other regions. So they have their own arrangements after study of the market, how they want to compete in these markets. Now, is this kind of a market stable? Do we understand that the firms will not cheat in this kind of an agreement, or whether even here you'll find that the cartels do not last for a long time? So what we find here is that these kind of markets are also closed models, which we say that there is a prevention of firms entering into this particular model. So when we are understanding that there is a closed model, firms are alert at the entry of new firms into that particular cartel. So what do these firms do? The firms which are already members of the cartel, how do they behave? They can respond in multiple ways depending upon the product and the firm, the cost, their history. Many factors come into their decision. The strategic decision can take into account many of these factors. One, for example, it can charge a low price when they see the competitor joining that particular industry, and by selling at a low price, they make that product unattractive to the new entrant, by which they believe that they can thwart out that new entrant from joining that market. Or otherwise, it could also do this. They can enter into a price war right at the beginning to frighten away the new entrant and sell it at a lower price so that the new firm does not continue the market. Depends upon the firm and its resources. If the new firm has got resources to withstand that, then it would continue to sell at a lower price, incur the losses that it has to incur, and hope that in course of time it will be able to capture the market and participate in the market like the others. So there is this fear of a new entrant coming in. Now, we say that, and those enjoyed, yeah, we can see this, that till the new firm keeps it low, competes with the others, and survives it, then it's a part of the other one if it can scale up its operation. In many industries, we know that this kind of activities happen by firms join in, then stay on. In mobile services especially, we have seen this. They come in, they offer it at low prices, they stay on in the industry. Once they have established their customer base, then they operate like the other existing firms. Now, let's evaluate this market sharing model. What's the problem of this market sharing model? Will they succeed to survive this market? So market sharing is invariably an unstable proposition, though for a short time it does help them to consolidate their position in their respective markets. They break and they form again. So it could be invariably because one or the other firm resorts to cheating or bluffing. Now, this oligopoly form of market structure essentially depends upon the trust that members in a cartel enjoy. When members no longer enjoy the cartel, then the cartel itself does not serve the purpose and it breaks off. Even regional split of market is inherently unstable. So we just saw the regional market splitting. Even that is not stable because sooner or later some kind of a violation will take place, either discreetly or openly or by mistake. In some way or the other, some mistake will, some kind of a violation will happen. And once that violation happens, again, the whole cartel idea is lost. So low cost firms in this whole market sharing cartel have an incentive to expand selling at a lower price or a secret price to its or give concession to its customers, or by reaching to the adjacent market by selling activities through advertising and so on, and take the customers from one market into their new market. So any of these kind of things are possible in these cartels, and to that extent these markets are inherently unstable form. So cartels are tried out, and it is illegal, but it is tried out by firms. So, what happens? Why are we so concerned about this kind of an agreement that firms come into? Can't the firms actually join together and do business like this? Is there something wrong with it? Yes, there is something that we do not accept when firms prevent competition from happening. The yardstick for comparing this competition is perfect market. So, perfect market is the perfect condition of competition that should exist between the buyers and sellers. Any deviation from that, we saw, forms into different market condition. This form of market, oligopoly, and this collusive form of market actually does not allow the spontaneous working of the market mechanism. It prevents the market mechanism from working where we see that the demand is available, the demand curve is not known, but here what is known is the price is fixed and the quantity is fixed among nothing. It is like what we call as match fixing. So the firms have already fixed what they should sell, at what price they should sell, to whom they should sell, where they should sell. So once all these things are decided upon, then what are the customers to participate in with? They have no role to make a choice because they have to take whatever the firms are giving. And to that extent, firms don't have the customers don't have an advantage of getting cheap goods or getting good goods, or they don't have a choice that they can make, because if it is a regional issue, then they have only that service provider or whose services or goods they can purchase. For example, at one time we saw that in the mobile telephony in the country, certain regions of the country had certain players and only their services were available in regions. So these kind of things, we have no substitute. The close substitutes are not available, and therefore customers are the losers. And that is why countries of the world do not encourage or are prohibit firms from joining cartels. And as I told you in the previous video also, there are laws that are made to prevent this kind of cartel formation among among the firms in an oligopoly market structure. And these rules are often applied to correct or to penalize firms when they form this kind of cartel. So those of you who are interested, you can still look and read up more on that on the Competition Commission of India, see the various cases that have come up for legal resolution with the Competition Commission, and understand how this whole story unfolds to prevent the market from competing. So the next presentation will be on price leadership, and price leadership is another form by which price and output is decided under the oligopoly structure. So hoping that you have enjoyed the video, you could understand the concepts well, and the basic text that from where I use this is Coates' Modern Economic Theory, which will give you a much more detailed presentation. So thank you very much. Please do click the like button and share it with your friends. It will be useful to them as well. And also subscribe to the channel. This motivates me to make more videos for you. Thank you. Thank you very much.